Okay, this is the Gaming Zone 100 here with another video, and in this video I'm going to be talking about Macho Man Randy Savage's career. Let's get started. Macho Man Randy Savage, we all know, died this past Friday in a car accident. I know when I did my video, I was sad that he died. You know, he was like one of my all-time favorite wrestlers of all time. One of the favorites. Either whether you love the guy, whether you hate the guy, he was a standout guy, no doubt about it. And I couldn't say anything but good for the Macho Man Randy Savage. Um, well, basically, Macho Man Randy Savage had a great wrestling career. His wrestling career started in 1973 in the Independence, and Randy Savage wrestled in his father's organization for a number of years, won their world title as many occasions, on several times. Then eventually he got signed with the WWE in 1985, and he was basically he was the number hottest free agent in wrestling to go to the WWE. His first match was at Madison Square Garden against Top Draw Rick McGraw. That was a good match for Randy Savage. Randy Savage also had about a month later, roughly, he came into the WWE with his wife, ballet Miss Elizabeth, to be part of his managerial career. There was managers that was vying for Savage's services, like Bobby Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Slick, Jimmy Hart, and so forth. Well, Randy Savage decided to go with his wife, Miss Elizabeth, as his valet. And then eventually Randy Savage went up on the card a bit, and then he got his title match against Hulk Hogan in December 1985, and he had a fairly good match against Hulk Hogan. You know, it was one of the few times that no one didn't know at the time that Hogan and Savage back in the day, prior before Savage became a face, eventually he and Hogan feuded a lot. And Randy Savage was always contending for challenging for Hogan's title as well. And then he eventually did set his sights on another title, the Intercontinental title. He won the Intercontinental title in February of '86. He beat Tito Santana in the Boston Garden on it was a taped event that they showed on TV later. Randy Savage held the Intercontinental title for an astounding 15 months. Was it 15? No, it was 14 months. My bad. 14 months as Intercontinental champion, and during that time he was Intercontinental champion. He also feuded with Hulk Hogan at the time. He was the WWE champion at the time as well. So Macho Man and Hulk Hogan still feuded. When Hogan had the WWE title and Randy Savage had the Intercontinental title, he was challenging Hogan for his belt. And they basically feuded all the way up until basically to mid-1987. And then he had a match with Ricky Steamboat that's going to his title defense against Steamboat. He broke his larynx with the ring bell, and he crushed his throat, and Ricky Steamboat was out for a while. And then eventually Ricky Steamboat came back and challenged Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3 for the Intercontinental title, and that was by far the best match of the year at that time in 1987. It was Savage and Steamboat that stole the show at WrestleMania 3 at that event. Basically, it was Hogan and Andre stole the event, but the Savage Steamboat stole the show. That night, it was a truly remarkable match. They were doing a lot of counters, a lot of pinfalls, close pinfalls. it was so great how that match was. It's one of the greatest matches in like over 20 something years, as voted by the PWI people for the best match of all overall for like over 20 something years. So you gotta give that. Eventually, the Honky Tonk Man eventually got the Intercontinental title from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And then eventually Savage was turning into a face. The fans were starting to get behind Randy Savage. And he was basically, Honky Tonk Man was saying that he was the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time. This is one of Randy Savage's greatest feuds against the Honky Tonk Man. He said that Randy Savage said that he was the greatest Intercontinental champion of all time because Randy Savage held the belt for 13 months. And Randy Savage wasn't considered as one of the greatest Intercontinental champions. He is one of the greatest Intercontinental champions, no doubt about that. Well, anywho, eventually Randy Savage got another championship match against the Honky Tonk Man in September, which aired in October on a Saturday night's main event. During that match, the Hart Foundation and the Honky Tonk Man basically beat down Savage. Then Elizabeth left the ring, went into the bed, dragged down Hulk Hogan, and basically that's how the Mega Powers were formed. Randy Savage was turned into a face after that. The fans liked him, and then the Mega Powers were born. And then Randy Savage still feuded with Honky Tonk Man over the Intercontinental title up until February of '88. Then he, even though he won by a count out, because the Honky Tonk Man normally would either got counted out or disqualified to keep his title. So Randy Savage was eventually going to be put into the WrestleMania tournament at WrestleMania 4. And at WrestleMania 4, Randy Savage won the WWE title in the elimination tournament for the WWE title. He defeated Ted DiBiase in the finals match. It was a decent match for Randy Savage and Ted DiBiase. It was a decent match, you know. Eventually Randy Savage did get the Duke and the win. He got the WWE title. And it was basically at that time, prior to no one didn't know, there was a saying that was originally what was supposed to happen was that at WrestleMania 4, Randy Savage wasn't not going to even be part of the championship tournament, that he was going to be challenging the Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 4. And then the WWE title was up because Hulk Hogan had to get the title off of him. So they did a controversial fashion at the main event in February of '88. And Hogan was going to do the movie No Holds Barred, and he needed the time off so he could do the movie. So eventually what came down, the Honky Tonk Man basically told WWE management and said, hey, I'm not going to drop my Intercontinental title to Randy Savage at WrestleMania 4. I'm going to take my Intercontinental title and I'm going to go leave the WWE and go into another wrestling promotion with the Intercontinental title. So just to make Macho Man happy, not Macho Man, to make Honky Tonk Man happy, they had him defend the title against Brutus the Barber Beefcake at WrestleMania 4. And Randy Savage went into the championship tournament, and then Randy Savage found out that Honky Tonk Man was going to leave the company, that he wasn't going to get the Intercontinental title, and Randy Savage was mad, saying that he was going to leave the WWE, and then management decided to let Randy Savage get the title win at WrestleMania 4, as it originally was supposed to be given to Ted DiBiase. Ted DiBiase said it was. I was shocked that Ted DiBiase would allow Randy Savage to get the title, because Ted DiBiase was promised the title. This was said in Ted DiBiase's book. So if you ever read Ted DiBiase's autobiography, that is it. Just look at his autobiography and it'll tell you the same thing like what I told you. So anyway, let's get back. Randy Savage defended his title for a full year. He had a great feud against Ted DiBiase, along with Andre the Giant. They did their team up of the Mega Powers at SummerSlam of '88. The Mega Powers versus the Mega Butts. The Mega Powers won that match. And then eventually, as you started after that match, you started normally that it was that the Krats were signing into the fold between the Mega Powers. There was you could see it in the scenes of the Krats and the Mega Powers forming at the time, and of course Randy Savage and feuded with the Twin Towers, and Hogan feuded with them as well. Then it accumulated to the main event. In February of '89, the Mega Powers faced the Twin Towers. Elizabeth got knocked out during the match. Hogan took Elizabeth, took her to the bed for medical attention, thus leaving Randy Savage in the ring to fend off the Twin Towers. Eventually, Hogan did come back to help out. Then Randy Savage left Hogan stranded. He took his belt, went to the back, and went to go talk to Elizabeth to find her in the locker room. And Hogan finished the match, won the match for the Mega Powers. Then Hogan went back to the dressing room, and Randy Savage was conspired because he was in the back row in the pecking order of the Mega Powers. That Hogan was after Elizabeth. He was lying in the weeds trying to get a shot at the WWE title, and then that ended the Mega Powers team. After that, and then Randy Savage and Hogan had a great match at WrestleMania 5, and Hogan regained the title, and Randy Savage got Elizabeth, didn't have Elizabeth. He get rid of Elizabeth as his manager, and got Sensational Queen Sherry as his manager. And basically, Randy Savage feuded with Hulk Hogan on over the WWE title on house shows around the world. Some of the matches Hogan would win, and other times Savage would either win by countouts or whatever. And then there was eventually when Savage had Sensational Sherry. He was devious as ever when he had Sensational Sherry. And eventually they did a feud with Randy Savage's duels against Hogan and the Brutus the Barber Beefcake at SummerSlam of '89. At that time, Randy Savage was in a bitter feud with the Brutus the Barber Beefcake at the time, and he also had his feud with Hulk Hogan at the time. And then we all found out that Hogan and Beefcake won the SummerSlam '89 match. Then Randy Savage went down the feud and went to win the kingship from Headsaw Jim Duggan. He was the king of the WWE. He feuded with Jim Duggan over the crown for several months. And then he came into a funny feud with Dusty Rhodes, and that lasted for several months of that feud. And then eventually Randy Savage, after he got done with his feud with Dusty Rhodes, he went on to starting his feud with the Ultimate Warrior. He wanted to challenge the Warrior for his WWE title. Warrior wouldn't allow Savage to give him a title shot, and eventually Savage cost the Ultimate Warrior the WWE title to Sergeant Slaughter at the Warrior Rumble of '91, and that was going to be setting up for Warrior Savage retirement match. Basically, that match was a good match by Randy Savage and Ultimate Warrior. Randy Savage made the Ultimate Warrior. They made it in that match because Randy Savage timing was impeccable with Randy Savage. He strategically mapped out everything to go over the bases to make the match look good. And eventually Randy Savage lost to the Ultimate Warrior, and then Sherry then got angry. Macho Man started attacking him. Elizabeth came back, and Savage and Elizabeth got rebat together, and Savage's basically his career was over. So Randy Savage was behind on the microphone doing color commentating, and then he eventually had a SummerSlam of '91. He married his wife Miss Elizabeth at that SummerSlam. Then after that, he got into a feud with Jake the Snake Roberts, and this was one of the greatest feuds of Savage and Jake Roberts. It was so brilliantly done with Jake the Snake Roberts antagonizing Savage and Elizabeth, unleashing a King Cobra on Macho Man. Uh, and that allowed the Macho Man to get a match at Tuesday in Texas against Jake the Snake Roberts, and then they had their bitter feud that ended in February of '92 at the Saturday night's main event. And basically, Randy Savage after that, then he got into a feud with Ric Flair. They had great chemistry. Ric Flair and Randy Savage had great chemistry in the ring. Then eventually, Randy Savage did beat Ric Flair for the WWE title at WrestleMania 8. Savage held the title for 5 months. Then he eventually dropped it to Ric Flair. Eventually, and then Savage went to go on to form like a little tag team with the Ultimate Warrior, and that tag team only lasted for only a couple months due with the Ultimate Warrior had to leave the WWE due to some type of drug was like a drug test, and the Ultimate Warrior failed, and he had left the WWE, thus leaving Randy Savage as that team dissolved. And then Randy Savage, was still wrestling. Eventually, he decided to forego the uh, forego to be the commentator on Monday Night Raw. So he was a color commentator for about a year, about a year and about a year and a half. He was behind the mic. He also wrestled sparingly, and then eventually Randy Savage. He had a few matches here and there in the WWE to tail out his WWE career, and then he went into WCW. He got into a feud with Hulk Hogan against the Dungeon of Doom, and he also rekindled his feud with Ric Flair during his time in WCW. Eventually, Randy Savage did win the World Heavyweight title in WCW at World War III in '96 pay-per-view. He won the title. Randy Savage kept the title for a month, then he dropped it at Starrcade. Then he regained the title on the Monday Nitro in January, and he held it for a little bit less than a month. Then he lost it at the next pay-per-view at Super Brawl. And basically, Randy Savage was still in his feud with Ric Flair over the months, and then eventually Randy Savage went to do another feud with Hulk Hogan, as Hogan was the heel and Savage was the face at the time. And Savage had his mini feud with Hogan going into Halloween Havoc in '96. And then Randy Savage didn't wrestle after that. He came back into the ring at Super Brawl in '97. He helped Hogan beat Roddy Piper in that match. And he went into the NWO. And he went into the NWO and he had his feud with... After that, he joined the NWO. He had his feud with DDP. That was a great feud he had with Diamond Dallas Page. And then eventually that feud lasted for several months. And then there was another bitter end feud with Hogan and Savage, who was going to be the leader of the NWO. And that all dissolved. Then Randy Savage left NWO Black and White and formed the NWO Wolfpack with Kevin Nash. And he was part of the NWO Wolfpack. He was there until he got injured, and then he basically wasn't seen. Then Randy Savage came back into WCW, and he came back with Team Madness. He eventually did regain the WCW Heavyweight title on Bash at the Beach of '99. And then the next night on Nitro, Hogan beat Savage for the belt on the next night on Nitro. So Randy Savage finished as a 4-time WCW champion and a 2-time WWE champion that finished his title career. And basically, after that, Randy Savage left. He came back one more time for a WCW Nitro when he helped out the New Blood against, when he helped out the Millionaires Club against the New Blood, helped them out. And basically, after that, he left WCW for good. He was like done wrestling. Period. He did make an appearance at a TNA in 2004. He did have a match there, and then he eventually left and hasn't been seen since. So that is basically it for the Macho Man Randy Savage. That is his career retrospective of his career for Randy Savage. Like I said, Randy Savage is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And it's so sad that he died the way that it happened, but that's the way that it is. And I'm saying nothing but good things about Randy Macho Man Savage. He was a stand-up guy, no doubt about that, and he will be greatly missed by all. And in remembrance of the Macho Man Randy Savage, went and got myself a couple of Slim Jims. I'm going to go eat. I already ate the Slim Jim Friday. I had a Slim Jim, and I said, "This is for you, Randy Savage." So I ate a Slim Jim in Randy Savage's honor. So I encourage everyone to buy a Slim Jim and go eat it in homage to the Macho Man Randy Savage, because he was vocal for the Slim Jim commercials. It was so cool, so creative how he did that. One other side thing I want to say, Randy Savage was like one of the best overall in-ring competitors of all time. He was, like I said, he was a flamboyant, very, very good on the mic. He had good interviews. He was the total package in wrestling. There was no doubt about it. He was a high flyer. He did it all. What can you stand about Randy Savage? That his attire was stand out, made him look colorful, made him look real good. It was good marketing for Randy Savage to do, and he did do that very well. So yeah, so this is the Game is On 100, and this is the retrospective of Randy Savage's career. And on a side note, I am going to be posting my review video of the Chicago Bulls Miami Heat Game 3 game. Later on tonight, after when that game gets over, I'm going to be posting that video. So I'll talk to you all later.